There is absolutely no doubt that this transfer window will be huge for Leeds United, with plenty coming in, plenty going out, and that's a little bit spooky at the start of a window, and anyone would be absolutely insane and stupid to try and predict what would happen. Let's have a little bit of a guess, shall we? In this video, I'm going to be predicting every LUFC player's window in 3 words. This isn't covering the incoming players because there's tons of rumours already, and it'd be impossible to cover all of them. It's just the players that are currently at Leeds or not at Leeds in complicated ways. We'll get into it. So, first up, Ilham Meslier stays. So I'm annoyed. Ilham Meslier is one of those players that a lot of people don't like. That is stylistically something that a lot of people would rather was different. So from crosses, not punching, catching. That's a coaching thing, not a Meslier thing. But I think Ilham Meslier will stay. Ilham Meslier will start next season. And in my opinion, Ilham Meslier is good enough to do that. Next up, Caldalo. Still here pointlessly. Caldalo is someone that I am not the happiest with as a backup goalkeeper. I would much rather have a Christopher Claesen. We'll get to him in a moment. Yeah, Darlow's shot stopping is okay, but his distribution doesn't really work with the way that Daniel Farke likes to play, and that is absolutely terrifying, as we saw in the League Cup last season. On the subject of Christopher Claesen, could be tempted. I can see a potential move for Christopher Claesen this summer. I would say probably permanently, just because he knows he's not going to get into the Leeds United squad as a starter anytime soon. You know that he's not even on the bench because he's behind Caldalo, except for when Caldalo, I think, broke his thumb or something like that. Yeah, I can see Claesen being tempted into a move away from Leeds United, which brings our count of players that are leaving up to 1. Next up, someone else that could be leaving is, in my opinion, Charlie Cresswell. He's not really one of Daniel Farke's favourites. That's not a question in the slightest, because apparently he had attitude problems in training, and then he wasn't quite up to the standard, and you're not getting into the side behind Ampadu and Rodon anyway. So I think he will want assurances in terms of his playing time and his route into the first team, or he'll be gone. That simple. I don't think Charlie Cresswell is going to stick around this summer because I don't think he'll get those assurances either. Next up is Liam Cooper. Is he here? We've not had the retained list for Leeds United quite yet, which is probably not the best of things, because I would have quite liked to have had that, because it's a little bit of certainty. You know who's been offered a contract, you know who's accepted that contract. I think Liam Cooper probably goes because he had his farewell at Elland Road in the home match against Norwich. I don't reckon he's going to be here, which is a little bit sad, but completely understandable, to be honest. I can see him moving on to either another championship club or maybe somewhere up in Scotland or even abroad. Hell, apparently Saudi clubs were looking at him last summer or the summer before. Maybe. Another player whose contract is running low is Junior Firpo, who I believe will stay with a contract extension. Second half of the season, to me, he has proven what a lot of fans doubted in him. He has a lot of potential, he has a lot of ability, and he's able to put that out on a football pitch. I think he will stay. I think he will be offered a new contract with a couple more years on it, and it might not be the biggest payday for him, at least in the short term, but it's clear that he's growing to like Leeds a little bit more. And as that happens, it just makes sense to me that we'd offer him a contract and potentially big wage rise if we get promoted, and I can see him cementing his place in that team next year. I hope he stays as well. I really enjoy Junior Firpo. Next up is Pascal Struijk, who, in my opinion, no doubt stays. He was very injured throughout last season. I don't see clubs putting in that many bids for him because he very clearly has talent, but after a questionable level of fitness throughout the championship season, you're going to think, I don't really want to take a risk on it. So without a doubt, he stays. And similar to the Firpo Cooper situation, we've got to talk about Sam Byram, who I think gets offered a new contract. Not because he's going to be a first-team player, but because he's going to be very useful as a rotational option. He can play on the right, can play on the left. At times, he can play at centre-back if we desperately need. I think, assuming that he'll be one of the lower-paid players in the squad, it makes sense to offer Byram a new contract because he's mostly reliable. It doesn't seem like there's any big advantage to getting rid. Another player that I hope that we sign on a new deal would be Joe Rodon. I think he gets his permanent Leeds deal because he was that good last season. He was so consistent, always in the side, someone you can rely on defensively, and he is a top-level championship player. And yes, maybe a Leicester or an Ipswich or a Southampton could look at him and go, you know what, he's quite good, and we could get him relatively affordably compared to proven Premier League defenders. I think he's made himself a home at Leeds, and I can see that deal going through at some point soon. Next up, also centre-back, is someone that really impressed as their first season at Leeds United, Ethan Ampadu, who I think will be next season's captain. You want to put the captaincy on someone that is going to be there every single week, and that was the case for Ethan Ampadu, except for the occasional cup match. It makes sense to me to have someone that is that reliable, that always in the side, that versatile, so he can always be either a defender or a midfielder. You can find him in the squad any week. It just makes sense. Make Ampadu the captain, and then you've got a nice, firm presence in there that is able to sort of calmly control the squad. It works. Archie Gray. I think there will be bids for him, but they will be rejected instantly. We've got that Red Bull money now, so we don't need to sell in order to make things okay. We can just sort of say, well, no, we're building this project around Archie Gray. He's had one season in the Championship, looked incredible, but at the same time, he's going to need more first-team football to keep that development going, and is he going to get it if he goes to the Premier League? Or the Bundesliga, because Bayern's been reportedly interested? I don't think so. So I think it is sensible for Archie Gray to stay at Leeds, for him and for us. Maybe in the long term he finds a move, but he wants to see Leeds in the Premier League. We want to see Leeds in the Premier League, and he can help get us there, and I don't see him moving on. Next up, a similar right-back is Connor Roberts, and I don't see a permanent move happening. I don't think he did enough to impress in his time at Leeds. I think that 6 months he didn't push his way ahead of Archie Gray at right back when Archie Gray wasn't initially a right back is probably not good enough to justify the amount that Burnley would like us to spend, unless Burnley are desperately in need of cash having come down, but I don't see that being the case. I can see Burnley trying to keep hold of him, use him in the Championship again. Yeah, I like Connor Roberts, but I don't know if he stays, is basically the summary of it. Another player that I don't know if he stays is Jamie Shackleton. I think that Jamie Shackleton likely moves away from the club because I don't know if he's of the standard. He's got lots of energy, sure, but I don't think he's a good enough technical player. I can see him getting a move to one of the lower level Championship clubs or even top of League One sort of area. He's a Yorkshire lad. I can see maybe a Huddersfield or a Sheffield Wednesday with a reuniting with Jan Poveda working out. It's a complicated one, but I can see a move away for Jamie Shackleton, which is a little bit of a shame. Really like him, but I think it's best for his career at this point. Unlike Darko JB, who I think will stay here. Went to Plymouth and genuinely impressed down there, and I think that was the little bit of like match time that he needed to develop. I think JB can slip into that Shackleton-esque spare midfielder slot on the bench without any significant issues, and I can see him genuinely showing his ability over this next season. Someone else who was out on loan that is very confusing to me is Sam Greenwood. Borough had a £1.5 million buy option in his contract. I'm not entirely sure if they've triggered that or not. I'll need to look into that into a little bit more detail. But either way, I can't see him necessarily at the club. Either Borough buy him or we move him on somewhere else, but I don't know if he's going to be a significant part of the club next season. Maybe he impresses Daniel Farke in training at some point, or maybe we have a look through the squad and think an attacking midfielder is exactly what we need, and Sam Greenwood stays. But as things are, I don't see it happening. Someone that is guaranteed to stay, and I'm not going to be using too many words on these guys either, Ilya Gruev. Key player stays. Showed how essential he is throughout that second half of the season, and basically controlled the midfield 99% of the time, alongside Glenn Kamara, who I've got down as we sign challenger. So someone that can play a little bit more box-to-box, someone that can be more aggressive and score goals from midfield. I know that Kamara's likely been told to pass it to the players that are more likely to score the goals, but at the same time, if he was confident enough to have a dig, we'd be a lot better off. Now, diving into the front line, I'm going to start with Willy Gnonto, who gets his move. Wanted one last summer, didn't work out for him, and I can see him just... I don't think he'll even need to push that hard to get a move this summer. It'll be a case of, okay, we said give us a year. You gave us the year. You did pretty well, but it's time to go. And I can see Serie A being a potential destination for him, maybe the Premier League, but I'm not entirely sure who to in the Premier League. Yeah, I can see Nonto getting his move, and someone that I can't see getting a permanent move is Jadon Anthony. Maybe he gets a permanent move elsewhere, but it's the same situation as the Connor Roberts one, where he didn't break into the first team. I don't know if he's done enough to impress, and we don't have a buy clause in that deal, so I can see that move being relatively unlikely. Although he'll move away from Bournemouth, in my opinion, because Sinisterra is still at Bournemouth. Another winger, Dan James, in my opinion, will be key next season. He's not going to go anywhere. I can see a few clubs being interested, but having seen him come off the bench in that playoff final, play on the right and just destroy, create so many chances, then go over to the left, have our chance of the match, get concussed, and then have another excellent chance. We need to be playing Dan James significantly more next season, in my opinion. Finally, on the wings, Crescencio Somerville gets a Premier League move. This one isn't really in question. There's so much interest around him. We can sell him for a significant sum of money compared to that £1.5 million fee that we paid for him. I can see 25 to 30 million pounds being potentially on the cards, but you never know with this market. It could be absolutely anything. We'll see. Basically, Somerville gone, and someone else that I think will be gone is Joe Gelhardt. I can see a move for Gelhardt, genuinely, to another club in the Championship, maybe like a Sunderland or perhaps I'm trying to think of where he go. Maybe even like a Luton. Someone that needs that little bit of creativity. Joffrey is a really, really, really good player. But I don't know if he's the sort of player that if we get promoted, we keep in the Premier League. So I feel like the club might look to sort of expedite that, say, look, we'll get some money for him now. I don't know if he gets into the 11 anyway. He's in that same fit as Piru, where he's not a 9, he's not a 10. Very complicated. I can see Joe Gelhardt leaving us this summer. Someone that won't be leaving us, but I think their role will be massively cleared up, is Joel Piroux. I've gone with role much clearer. After this window, we'll be able to sign the players that we want in the positions that we want, and depending on whether we sign someone for the 9 or someone for the 10, will tell us where we expect to see Joel Piroux. He's a very complicated kind of guy. You don't know where he's going to play, but when he's absolutely on fire in any position, he can nail it. But it's that uncertainty that I think causes us some problems. I don't necessarily think that he'll play as a number 9 because I think that role is going to go to Mateo Joseph, who stays and is a probable starter, in my opinion. I can see Mateo Joseph starting as many matches as possible next season from the beginning because at the start of the season, there's not that pressure. There's not the pressure that's been allowed to build up as we've gotten to a place of we need to win this match or it's not going to happen. More minutes earlier in the season for Joseph would be fantastic, and I can see him just starting the season as our number 9. We've got someone that I forgot existed, Sonny Perkins. I've gone sold, I guess, because I don't see him sticking around. He won't want to be a youth player anymore. He couldn't even break through at Oxford, so I don't see him being part of our first team squad. Yeah, bye-bye, Sonny Perkins. It was bang average throughout. Final member of the playing staff is Pat Bamford. Joe Sad leaves. The amount of pressure that is around Patrick Bamford and the amount of complaints that he constantly gets, I can see Bamford potentially finding a move somewhere this summer, which is sad for me because whenever he plays, we look significantly better. But it feels right. I mean, it's sad, but it still feels right. Finally, Daniel Farker. I've gone with happier with the squad because he's had the full length of time to put together his squad, get a pre-season in, and hopefully get decent foundations for all the results we need. And of course, we have the fans, who will be irritable as ever. Either way, that's what I think. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. There's a hell of a lot of players to cover, so I don't expect you to cover all of them. But if you think I've got any of the wilder takes, let me know. And come on, words. Like the video if you enjoyed. Subscribe if not yet. That's always massively appreciated. And I will see you later. Yes, I'm in my pajamas. It's like 8:30 in the morning. Let me off. See you later.